Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. This week we bring in Pete Moran. Before we get started, can you make sure that you like, subscribe, or leave a comment under the video? In this session, we're going to look at finding negative reviews, the strategies for turning negatives into positives, and a unique way of reaching a customer. Okay, so let's get started. Pete, do you want to give a little bit of background on yourself?
Hey guys, so my name's Pete Moran. I've been an Amazon seller for about coming up 2 years. I've also the technical co-founder of PPC Scope, and I work with Brian Johnson in the US. My background's actually in technology, so I'm always looking for ways at trying to sort of streamline my whole process of running this business.
Excellent. So let's get going with the review thing. So let's start with the impact of one-star reviews. We, as Amazon sellers, we always get to deal with this. Some people, it depends on how big your setup is, but you might find that you're getting one-star reviews on a daily or weekly basis, and everyone hates them. And most of the time, they're either unwarranted or they're your competitors. So let's just quickly talk about what is the impact of a one-star review in correlation to, or in comparison, to say a five-star review.
Well, I think that if you kind of look at it a bit like a bucket, right? We're trying to pour sales into our bucket. Now, a one-star is like a hole in that bucket, and it's going to start leaking money out because people that are coming to look at your product, they see these one-star reviews and they're thinking, well, I'm not sure I want to buy that. So the impact is that your sales suffer almost instantly. And, there's only kind of two ways to counteract that. Try and throw more traffic to the top of the bucket, or try and plug those gaps, plug those holes so that so that customers actually want to buy your product. And, I think that when you actually look at sort of the maths, when Amazon give you this this rating, that you will see that people are much more willing to buy a product that's 5-star than, say, 4.5-star. And I'm guessing anyone that's got a product has seen the impact when you drop that half a star, that your sales will be directly affected by that.
Yeah.
So it can't be underestimated how much it has an impact on you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've got some products that are in a non-competitive space, and you can get away with 3.8, 3.9s and 4.0s. However, anything that's got some sales velocity behind it, I definitely agree with you on that. And which is most cases, most private label sellers are in that vicinity, aren't they? Because they're looking for maximizes their sales for their bang for their buck. So in terms of recovering from that 1 star, how many 5 stars or 4 stars, etc., would you need, do you believe, to counteract that?
Well, Amazon's algorithm, how it calculates the ratings, a little bit of a black box, but you can kind of average it out. And by our calculations, it's approximately 15 positive reviews that you would need to kind of counteract that one-star review.
Yeah.
But the important thing to kind of think about is how many sales do you need to get those 15 positive reviews?
Yes.
Because let's say you've got a conversion rate of, say, 5% sale to review.
Yeah.
Then that's a lot of sales that you actually need in order to kind of counteract that 1-star review. And I think that's the bit that often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
It's the number of sales that you need to get 5-star reviews to counteract that 1-star review.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that if you work off a 5% conversion rate, you're basically shipping 5 new reviews per 100 units sold.
Yep.
So it's going to take you 300 units just to start to recover. And that's if all of those reviews are actually positive. So yeah,
correct.
It does make sense. And okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is how do you manually find the dreaded Amazon customer? We always get these. It's okay following up with customers when you get a negative review, but it's always a pain in the backside when they're displayed under Amazon customer.
Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can look at it. That if the customer leaves their name, then you can look. So if it's something that's not Amazon customer, so if it's like Danny McMillan, then you can then look into your order list and try and find it. But that's got a really low hit rate. Now, there is a kind of hack behind the scenes that is kind of quite well known on the Amazon scene, that if you go to your orders list, there's a kind of quite an advanced trick using Google Chrome where if you kind of look into the HTML that comes back from Amazon, there is a match between some information which is on the reviewer profile per se and information that's inside your order list. Now, it's really kind of hard to find, but there are some YouTube videos and stuff that describe it, but it is a bit of a headache to kind of do, but it's totally possible to find them.
Yeah. And obviously, time. We need to make sure that when we get these negative reviews, time has got to be on our side in terms of helping changing hearts and minds here. So, let's talk about the key steps. What would you do in this situation? You've gone the manual route. You've dug through the HTML. You've found the customer order number. You've matched it in the system. Again, guys, look on YouTube. There'll be videos for that. And then, how do we contact the customer? And what should we do there?
Okay, but let's just take a little step back,
yes.
right? Because you touched on a really important point. Like, the timing is everything. If you've got some negative reviews from, say, 2-3 weeks ago, and you try and go back and contact the customer, frankly, you've missed your moment. It's just not going to work. You've got to strike when the iron is hot. And I also think it's kind of important to try and understand why a customer has left this negative review before we even talk about turning it around. Because a customer has received their product, right? They've spent their money. They're excited to receive it. They've received it, and for whatever reason, they're not happy, right? And think about the feeling that they must. They're frustrated, and they're taking their frustration out by leaving you a negative review. So the whole point of your process has got to be turning that feeling into a positive one. Yeah. And it doesn't just take finding them and then leaving a refund, because that's a very cheap way of trying to solve it. You have to try to show the customer that you genuinely care and understand that their feedback, even if it's like total rubbish, you've still got to empathize with them. And then you have the best chance of turning around that review. So timing, get into the mentality of what's upset the customer before you even start looking at trying to turn the review around. Because without those, then you're kind of like almost for sure going to fail in your intent.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Totally. So before we talk about what's coming up about moving off of Amazon and contacting the customer, what are the steps then? Let's talk about just quickly. So you find Amazon customer in the HTML. You've matched the order. What is your next step of reaching out to the customer within the messaging system?
Well, okay. So first thing is I need to understand what the problem was in the first place. Like, did something not work? Was it broken? Did they get a faulty unit? Did it just not work for them?
Yeah.
That's the first thing that I actually want to know. After I've got that, I'm going to match this customer to the reviewer, and I'm going to know their order, and therefore I've got their name and I've got their address, and I can, if I wish to, contact them via Amazon's messaging system. Now, you can try and contact them via messaging in the way that you said, in terms of like overriding the standard messaging and doing a kind of not allowed one, as it were.
Yeah.
Or you could refund them. But in my opinion, I've tried lots of things for this. That has never worked very successfully. And I think you need to be a lot more creative.
Yeah. So what do we do then, just to finish up on this point here? You've got a customer that's opted out of marketing.
Yeah.
Do you take that risk of contacting them? No.
No, okay. I don't. No,
yeah.
I don't think there's a need to. And I don't think it has the effect on, as I said, the whole point of this is about to make that customer's unhappy feeling turn into a happy one.
Yeah.
So by sending them a little message via Amazon messaging system, I'm really sorry that you didn't like our product. It may work, but it's not really the statement that you need to make.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into, because I mean, you told me about this a while back, and I thought it was an ingenious idea. So let's talk about reaching them off of Amazon. What do you do in this case?
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about a particular scenario to start with, right? Yeah. And this is, so let's say, for example, that they've received a faulty unit. Now, that is one of the best ones or the easiest ones to turn around. So they've received something and it's not worked. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find their order, and this is going to be as early as possible. And without even contacting them, I'm going to send them a replacement unit so that it arrives the very next day. Mm-hmm. And this is an important step, because let's think about you. You're a customer. You're really frustrated that you received this unit. You've complained about it. The very next day, a replacement has arrived in the post. How do you feel?
Well,
how would you feel if that happened to you?
Yeah, no, you feel pleased, don't you? It's just like you may be surprised, or in some cases, I think with Amazon customers, if they're Prime members and they've been doing it a while, they almost might expect it. But I reckon a big portion of the population that are buying from Amazon would actually see it as a kind of a unique gift or act surprised from it.
In our experience, we've found that very few people have ever had it done before. And they've almost instantly contacted us. I think that the whole concept of getting a replacement almost in the post without, because bear in mind, they haven't complained to you. They haven't emailed you and said, oh, this isn't working. And then you promised to send them a replacement. They've left a negative review, right? They didn't even attempt to resolve the problem with you. You resolved it on your own. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of main difference.
Right.
And then our next step is to kind of do something which is going to totally wow them. Mm-hmm. And what we do is that we will send them a sorry card. And so we'll go to somewhere like moonpig.com in the UK. We've got their customer address, and we will send them a card, and we will write very carefully that we empathise with their problem. We're really sorry that this has happened. We'd also like to offer them a refund if they kindly get in touch with us by email, and then I will ask them to send them to an email address which we are monitoring.
Right, sounds good. So let's just walk through the whole Moonpig thing. Let's talk about some of the marketing messages that you've well, not marketing, but the sorry messages you're placed in there. So let's start with, you go to moonpig.com. What are we looking at cost? Do you need to put a credit card in? Do you buy credits? How does it work?
Well, Moonpig, you are paying per card, but you can buy credit in bulk. And so, it kind of works out to be probably about £3 to send a card out.
Yeah.
So it's not cheap, but I think that the bit that kind of gets missed is when we talked about the part at the top of our funnel, how much does it cost to get those 15 reviews that counteract the 1-star reviews, and then all of the sales that you need to get those 15 reviews. If you can turn around that 1-star review, it's actually cheaper, more cost effective by doing it this way.
Yeah.
So there is a cost associated with the point. But going back to your original question, you go to Moonpig, you choose a card which is very basic that says sorry. So when you get the sorry card, the point is to say to them, look, I'm really sorry this has happened. I take full responsibility for this problem. It should not have happened, and we'd like to put it right by you. The least I can do is to say sorry, but I'd also like to offer you a full refund. So please, would you kindly email me at this email address? And the whole point of this is I want to have a conversation off Amazon, because Amazon's terms of service are very strict in terms of saying, look, do I contact them via their Amazon messaging system? If the buyer has initiated a email conversation with you, you're kind of free to talk quite openly. Not that I would still ever ask them to change the review, but I will subtly request that they change the review. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally. So the total cost here, what we're looking at is that, because we've been comparing costs, we know the heavy duty costs of a 1-star review. So what we're looking at here is your cost of goods, your marketing cost, the Amazon fees, the cost of refund, and a card. Yeah?
Yes, correct.
So let's just say a lot of people sell smaller items, maybe about £15 or so. So your total cost per correction, you're probably looking about 20 quid, would you say, roughly?
Yeah, maybe approximately about that.
Yeah. So when you add that up and you compare that to, say, you've gone from 4.5 stars down to 4 stars, and you've lost 10 sales a day, went from doing, say, 25 to 30. Does that make sense?
It does. Bear in mind, I will just point on that, is like you can't expect to turn every single review around.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the bit where we'll get to. Yeah.
Yeah, and in my experience, that we've got kind of about I think we're 40% at the moment, but we're edging up higher as our tactics get more and more advanced, and we're slightly more subtle with the messaging to ask the customer to turn it around.
Yeah.
So then it makes it kind of a much cheaper method of actually turning these reviews around.
Yeah, of course. So this is why I want to, because of the whole TOS thing and stuff like that, I think it's quite important that let's look at a couple of scenarios, right? Let's just say a review came in and they just put 1 star, doesn't work. Yep. Walk me through how you deal with that one end to end, because I think it's important, because you said the context it's got, and dealing with the unique situation. What they've done there, they've not given you any reason why it doesn't work. They've put no description in, so you have no idea what they're talking about. You might actually find that the customer is completely using it wrong, or it is broken. So let's walk through how you deal that end to end up into sending the card and communicating the word into the customer.
Okay, so I think in that situation, what I would do is I would probably not send them a replacement unit straight off, because we don't know that they've actually got a problem yet. Yeah. And I would send them a card, and I would say, oh, look, I'm really sorry that this product hasn't worked for you. Without getting some more information on exactly what it is, I can't tell you what the issue was. However, if it's a faulty unit, I'm going to replace it and replace it straight away for you. Would it be possible to simply get in contact with me and I can then discuss the issue with you and send you a replacement. And this is after I would start with the email saying, look, I'm really sorry. I appreciate you must be frustrated receiving a unit that is not working. So it's kind of like the important thing is to empathise with their frustration, and then to go into the thing is like, you've got a problem. I want to solve it to you. Please get in touch with me via email. That would be kind of my first step.
Yeah.
Now, bearing in mind that the card is the bit that opens their eyes, because how many people receive a sorry card? They've complained they've got a sorry card in the post, right? Yeah. It's very hard for them to just go, this company doesn't care. I'm going to throw it in the bin. And you are going to get people like that, right? And be honest, there's probably nothing that you could do that is going to turn that person around. So, unfortunately, you're stuck. Yeah. But hopefully, if they've got some sort of degree of, of a heart, they're going to get in contact. Now, this company's really tried to, I've complained, let me get in contact with them via email. And then you've got the opportunity to open a dialogue. And that's the important thing, isn't it? Because it's very easy to leave a scathing review against a company. But when somebody's bent over backwards to try to help you, you have this personal connection with them.
Not just that, it causes embarrassment. So it can work sometimes the other way. They feel so embarrassed they don't respond. But I think with a card, it's going to be a lot different because it's a novelty factor, isn't it?
It is. It's a novelty factor, but it's also kind of showing that you've gone above and beyond.
That's it.
A lot of this is about doing things that people do not expect.
Yeah.
That if you do something that people are unexpected, think about it. Someone gets a card, they're sitting there with their wife or husband, can you believe I just got this, I complained about this thing. I just got this card. And then husbands and wives says, wow, that's amazing. What a caring company. Yeah. Instantly the concept or the belief in what you are as a company has changed.
Yeah.
And that gives you that little crack in the door to start turning it around.
Yeah.
And, it's very rare you'll go from a 1-star to, say, a 3-star. You'll more likely go from a 1-star to a 5-star, right? Because it's all perceived value that the company has given you.
Yeah. And so what do you do? Like, I don't know if you've had to mitigate any dramas at all. Someone's like not, because inherently somewhere along the line, like you said, they're going to act heartless and they're going to react in a maybe in a negative fashion where they may contact you. From your experience, or maybe not from your experience, what would you normally do in that situation? Because obviously you don't want to stoke the fire. You want to put an end to it instantly. What would be your approach if you did get the reaction that you wasn't looking for?
I think the first thing to do is empathise with the customer. So I understand how frustrating this is. You've received this, because you're kind of reading back the thoughts that they've given you in their letter or email, whatever they've said, because that almost always disarms people. Yeah. But they want to be heard. As soon as you start saying, oh, well, you are wrong, like that creates the fight. Yeah. If you effectively suck it up, right, and say, you will disarm them by not rising to their bait.
Yeah.
And the chances are you can still turn things around. It's like having an argument. As long as, the more you fight, the more you're going to get deeper into it. The more you kind of say, okay, I understand, try to get to the bottom of it, and don't get frustrated yourself, and don't put yourself on the righteous path. Yeah. And it's not a matter of being that the customer is always right. Is one way or another, you have an intent here, right? Your intent is to get this 1-star review turned around or removed.
Yeah.
And don't miss that goal, right? Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't matter. You're going to forget about it in a few weeks' time, whatever this woman said to you. So just deal with the problem in the way that the customer wants to hear it. Tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And then open that door a little bit further, and then you have the opportunity.
Okay. Another one, slight curveball here, but have you ever come across, because competitors will leave negative reviews, so you're using that same process, right? Have you come across that yet, where you've sent a card to the competitor who's purposely tried to trash your ratings?
You get 2 types of review, a verified one and an unverified. A verified means that somebody has actually purchased your product.
Yeah.
And there is a record on Amazon of that transaction versus that review, as it were. Mm. An unverified review, anyone can leave an unverified review. They can go to Amazon, they can just log in, they can click your product, and they can write whatever they want there.
Yeah.
And that is the usual place where that your competitors are likely to abuse, because it's so easy for them, and it's kind of untraceable for them to do so.
Yeah.
Amazon don't give as much weight to these reviews as they do to the verified reviews, but ultimately you can't. There is no order. There's just someone trying to trash your listing,
Yeah.
and the only thing that you can try and do is throw yourself at the mercy of Amazon and try and say, well, this looks out of line. I believe this is a competitor.
Yeah.
However, I cannot say that I know many people that have had a huge amount of luck in terms of actually turning those type of reviews around.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. I mean, the other thing is as well, guys, is that if it is a verified review as well, and it is, say, under Amazon customer, it's always worth looking at their review history, because you may find is that account was started the day before yesterday and there's 5 negative reviews, and they may be all similar to the same niche that you're in. So it's kind of obvious that even though they've done a purchase, they've basically planted a negative review on your product. That's another way where you can make informed decisions as well. It's just trying to build up a characteristics, the history of that person, and whether it's worth actually sending them or leaving it alone.
And you touched on a really great point there, is that I would always look at someone who's left me a negative review, because you very quickly can see, are they a hater? Right? Yeah. Have they just basically bought loads of products and then they leave a negative review? The chances are they just are miserable people, and you're not going to get them to turn it around. Now, if you've got someone that rarely leaves a review and then they've left you a 1-star, right, then, these are actually in some respects the best customers, because they must feel really like upset and hurt. Yeah. To actually have left you this review. And they probably put a lot of thought into like, oh, should I do it? It's like, no, I really feel frustrated. And they're also probably the easiest ones to kind of turn around, because they're the ones that will really respond to the kindness and the consideration that you're giving by going that extra step to really make them happy and resolve their problem. And then they're going to feel really guilty, because I think this is the kind of like the subtleness, is you don't specifically have to ask somebody to turn their review around, right? As long as they know how to do it, they know it's possible. Yeah. Think about how you feel. You've left this scathing review, right? And then you've had this amazing customer service. How are you going to feel knowing that you've left this original scathing review, knowing this person that's really helped you and his company is suffering sales because of something that you did? Yeah. This is the art in the words that you use in the follow-up sequences. Yeah. But the intent is the same. Leave them feeling kind of guilty, and then they're going to want to change the review. Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, look, let's wrap it there. Is there anything else you'd like to add at all, Pete? No, well, I think that, obviously try and prevent getting the negative reviews in the first place is just as important. Yeah. And just to reiterate again, that time is of the essence. So, even if you suddenly realize that you can match this review to an order, if you've got a review from 6 months ago, 3 months ago, even a week ago, don't start trying these techniques. They're highly unlikely to work. In fact, they're going to backfire because you've left it too late. Yeah. And I think that is the most important thing. Time is of the essence. Fantastic. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us again, Pete. Thanks for joining us again. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment under the video. Myself and Pete will come back to you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. See you later.